Thank you, everyone, for coming. So good morning. It is 10:26. This is the Health and Government Operations Committee. It is the voting list number 18, Saturday, April 6th. A lot of these bills, before we start, you will notice that we're going to go really fast. It does not mean that we don't know the bill, that we're not paying attention. We had them here. They had across. So we have already had the hearing. It was assigned to subcommittee. It was discussed. It was voted in subcommittee. It came to the whole committee. We voted it. We took it to the floor. We argue it. We got it across the street. We know it, okay? So they're just really in the same posture, most of them. Some of them will have a little change here and there, and we're going to probably accept it if it's not material. And as you know, we end session on Monday. The committee will probably have another session or two of voting, but we will probably go off the floor if it's a bill or two. Unless there's something material, we'll come back here. I wanted you to come back here today because I need you to clean your desk, because there's going to be during the 2024 interim, the Information Technology Office will be performing phase H of the refresh project to upgrade the committee hearing room infrastructure. So they may have to move the desk and the electric stuff. So I need you to please today, before you leave, clean it out. Otherwise, they're going to throw them out as well. I want to thank staff for coming in on Saturday to work. Yes. And for all the work you've done, and for our members, you, my colleagues, I want to thank you for all the work you've done. I'm very proud of the work we've done. So let's get started. House Bill House Bill 1276 is a withdrawal. May I have a motion? Any questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? The bill is withdrawn. Senate Bill 76, Continuing Care Retirement Community Transparency Grievances in Unit Reoccupancy. It was favorable. Lindsay and Rosenberg. Lindsay. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Lisa. Why? How did I see Lindsay there? I better get better glasses, Lisa. Go ahead.
This is identical to the cross file as it was amended in the Senate and concurred to by the House yesterday.
It's been moved in second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, the bill passes. Senate Bill 167, Physician Assistant Revision, favorable. Lindsay.
This one's identical to House Bill 806.
It's been moved in second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. She's going to be happy. Senate Bill 375, State Contracts Prohibited Provisions. Lindsay?
So this one, both houses passed this one identically, but you have an amendment in your packet now that the Senate is also going to consider. The amendment exempts from the bill a state contract relating to the purchase, redevelopment, or operation of a racing facility or training facility site. This amendment was suggested both by the Speaker's Office and Ways and Means staff in response to House Bill 1524. That's the racing bill. There were concerns about that contract and whether or not the provisions in this bill might interfere with that contract. So this is just exempting that specifically.
Okay, any questions or concerns? Delegate Chisholm.
I know it's going to be hard for you to answer, Lindsay, but did that side of ABC's in here is unfavorable and the Senate Republicans voted against this bill, which is odd. They're much more liberal than we are at times.
I'm sorry, do you mean the racing bill? Because the vote on this bill in the House was unanimous.
Yeah, and we're not sure how we missed this.
Oh, the Senate, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Senate it wasn't bipartisan, it was 37-10.
The Senate vote.
Yeah, they don't usually catch things that we miss.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good questions. Delegate Shalega.
Yes, I've reached out to ABC to ask. I thought we worked it out.
And that's my recollection.
Yeah, Ken's Delegate Kerr isn't here, but I thought we worked it out in government ops.
And that was my recollection that the amendments brought that they didn't have a concern. That's what I recall. And if I'm wrong, I apologize, but that is how I remember it. Yeah. And Delegate Kerr is not here. So is he on his way? Any minute? Can we hold on to that one? Let's hold on to that one. Let's put a hold. Let's put a pause. for a second. Let's leave it at the end. Senate Bill, and thank you for your questions. Senate Bill 408, Maryland Department of Health reports on standing orders and opioid overdose reversal drug. It was favorable, Aaron. It was moved in second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Let's move on to Senate Bill 453, Mental Health Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program. Favorable, Aaron.
That's what you passed yesterday.
All right, moved in second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, let's move on to Senate Bill 1000, Maryland Healthcare Commission Nursing Homes Acquisition. Favorable, Lisa.
It's identical to what you passed yesterday.
Has been moved in second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, it passes. Senate Bill 1028, Human Remains. Favorable, Lindsay.
This is identical.
The bill has been moved in second. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, let's move on to Senate Bill 1034, 911 Specialist Recruitment and Retention Work Group. It was favorable, Lindsay.
This is identical to what you concurred to.
The bill has been moved in second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Do you have a question, Delegate? Okay. Okay. Seeing none, any questions or concerns? None. All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, the bill passes. Delegate Chisholm.
Can we go back to, it was
At the end.
in HB 289, I see in here that ABC did send an amendment that said in line 19 after state insert without limitation. Do you know, I think that resolved their problem if you.
1 second and we'll look into it. Let's see where Delegate Curtis, just 1 second.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
so
my
too.
recollection too. Let me see, how far is he? So I've been told that they worked it out with ABC with the amendment is what I was told. Someone just texted me that is listening. Delegate Kerr, take a breather, take a breath, relax a second, 1 second. Take a breather. It's okay, we have time. 375, we worked it out with ABC, is what I was told.
Yes, everything's worked out.
All right, great question. Okay, so Delegate Riley, you still have a question?
I was
One
just
second.
gonna mention on my notes, I said that, yeah, that it was just basically the bill as a whole was just codifying current law. And
Yeah.
ABC were the ones that were in opposition. Was that amendment for the ABC, was that on it when the Senate voted?
So you're absolutely right. It's codifying the current practice, which excellent. I'm
Okay.
glad for your notes.
Okay, and for the purposes of the other bill that this may affect, so those folks that were maybe opposed to that bill, would it be best for them to not like what they did in the Senate with this new amendment? Or if you're favor of that bill, it wouldn't hurt it?
Opposed to the racing bill?
Yeah, 'Cause
I
that might make a
don't think
difference.
that this would necessarily address their
Address-
opposition to that bill.
Okay.
That this just says that a racing contract wouldn't fall under the requirements of this bill. So this bill, you're absolutely right. It's the testimony that we heard is it's codifying what current practice is so that the various state officers can point to this and say, here it is in law, as opposed to constantly getting feedback from the Attorney General saying, no, don't put those provisions into your contracts.
okay.
So that's why the opposition was generally removed. And I think why everyone felt comfortable voting for it in the House. But to the extent that they do need to include some provisions that are listed here in the racing contract, which I can't speak to, this would allow them to do that. So
Okay.
if they're opposed to that contract or that bill, I don't think this would address that.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification.
No, thank you for
Appreciate it.
your question and thank you, Lindsay. Delegate Hutchinson.
When we voted on this, on the House version, was the racing facility amendment already in there or is that new?
So this amendment is new. The Senate and the House passed the bill identically, so we would both have to put this amendment on, but they would have to concur. Not to get a bill or anything like that. So this is newly considered. We didn't hear about it until after the bills had both crossed.
Okay.
And there are two separate bills. Okay,
What I've heard is that there, in the negotiations for that contract, there might be some need to include something that's listed here, and they want to have the freedom to do that. I can't speak to what that might be specifically.
so we don't want to do anything that gets in the way of those negotiations. Okay? And Delegate Rosenberg says, thank you. It's dear and near to his heart, if you guys don't know that. Delegate Shalega,
Are we on the bill or amendment?
we are on the amendments.
On the amendment, okay, I'm reading the amendment. And, yeah, I don't know why we would hold out a horse racing track any differently than anything else. And maybe Delegate Rosenberg can address that, but if we're gonna treat everybody the same, but now we're gonna hold this one out, I'm not sure why we're doing that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I don't know the specifics as to why it's needed here in this bill. I can speak to the arrangement with a contract that would be entered into if that bill becomes law for the racetrack. And that is that there would be a contractual arrangement with the current owner, the Stronach Group, which will be donating Pimlico to the state of Maryland. But through December 31st of 2026, Stronach will still be operating the racing card, operating those facilities as as a contractual arrangement, because the Pimlico will not have been redeveloped at that time. So for portion, and ultimately at the end of that period, the end of December 26, this racing authority would hire someone, enter into a contractual agreement with a third party to run racing at Pimlico, which is what is already done in New York. That's what this whole thing is modeled on. And the chair of the authority is a partner at Venable. So I would, not knowing the specifics, I would rely on his knowledge of the law in terms of the need for this language.
And I think that what the bill does is not affected by the amendment. And I always believe in giving the courtesy, right? If they want it, because they're currently negotiating, why not? And it doesn't change also the support of, the parties involved. So I feel comfortable agreeing to it. Delegate Shalega.
Yeah, I'm just saying the amendment on page 2, lines 12 to 18. Provision that requires the state to agree to limit the liability for any direct loss to the state for bodily injury, death, or damage. I mean, that seems a little bit extreme. Of the state caused by the negligence, unintentional or willful misconduct, fraudulent act, reckless or other torturous conduct of a person. Yeah, I'm gonna vote
One
against this.
second, Lindsay's gonna address it,
These
okay?
are provisions that may not be included.
It's not exempting that they may not be included. So that means
The
that,
state contract may not include a provision that requires the state to agree to limit the liability.
Still going to be. Okay, except as required, it may not include.
Right. We're not gonna waive anyone's, liability. It's actually, it's a good
Okay, it's
consumer
still-
clause.
Way. It's
Yes,
saying that we're not gonna
absolutely.
say that.
It's the old double negative.
If the,
Yeah. Yes. They always get us, don't they? They always get us. I know they get me with the Spanish. Go ahead. Okay, all right. So may we move the amendments again just to make sure they've been second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition? Seeing none on the bill as amended? Any questions or concerns? Seeing none of those in favor say aye. Any opposition? All right, Delegate Morgan and Delegate Chisholm. Okay, not a problem. Not, I respect it, okay? You do what you feel comfortable. Okay, okay. Should we take a bet? No, just kidding. Hutchinson, go ahead. Just thought, just being funny. We love you. Just being funny, okay? So everyone is in favor, with the exception of, Chisholm, Morgan, and Hutchinson, okay? Thank you. The bill passes and we're done for now. Oh, we have concurrences, 1 minute. I spoke too quickly. Go ahead. So, Lindsay.
So ironically, I have House Bill 1388. This is labor and employment, non-compete and conflict of interest clauses for veterinary and healthcare practitioners. So that was the one we were just referring to.
Yes.
The amendments limit the application of the portion of the bill that applies to an employee required to be licensed under the health occupations article to an employee employed in a position that provides direct patient care and earns $350,000 or less in total annual compensation. For someone that earns more than $350,000 in total annual compensation, they can have a non-compete or conflict of interest provisions in their employment contracts, but they may not last for more than 1 year after the last day of employment, and the geographic restriction may not exceed 10 miles. And on request of a patient, the employer must provide notice to the patient of the new location where the former employee will be practicing. The bill also requires MHCC to contract with a private consultant to study the effect of private equity firms on the healthcare market in the state, the payer mix for physician practices and groups with private equity ownership, the impact of hospital consolidations on physician practices, the acquisition of physician practices, and the impact on the ability of nonprofit hospitals and health systems to maintain access to care. The Senate also added a provision specifying that the provisions regarding non-compete and conflict of interest shall be construed to apply only to contracts or agreements executed on or after July 1st, 2025.
Okay. All right, any questions, Delegate Lewis? Oh, I'm sorry, Delegate Lewis and then Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you for updating us. I'm concerned about the provision that allows employers to impose an up to 1 year non-compete agreement after a person leaves employment. What is a veterinarian supposed to do for 1 year? Sit around collecting unemployment benefits? I don't understand that provision and I'm very concerned.
Go ahead.
That actually only applies to someone who's required to be licensed under the health occupations article, and veterinarians are licensed under the agriculture article. And it also applies only if they provide direct patient care and they earn more than $350,000 in total annual compensation.
Follow-up question. So health occupations article includes physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. I mean, what are those highly trained and much needed professionals supposed to do for a year? Sit around and collect unemployment benefits?
May I say that? Yes, no. This will be a compromise. If this does not pass, it will be very difficult to get it through next session. The hospitals do not want it. And we have 2 houses. And this is a half loaf, right? And I'm gonna leave it there. Okay? Martinez, Delegate
Madam-
Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too am on the ledge, but understand compromise. Wanted to just understand the rationale behind the 350,000 benchmark. Is that narrowing, I guess, the scope of who
It
this would
is.
apply? And
Yeah.
if so,
And
could you
PAs
guys
don't
have the
make
numbers?
350s.
No, I
Yeah.
understand that, but I just wanted to know, I guess, do we have numbers on who this would apply? Like, do we understand why that number just seemed odd to me when you said it, so.
I can't speak to the $350,000 cutoff, like as far as how many people would fall below or over that.
Okay. Delegate Johnson.
Madam Chair, the thing that makes this okay with me is 10 miles. Because I know before they had restrictions of 30 miles or more. So the 10 miles makes it okay with me. If your occupation is in demand, you can go anywhere and get a job. So 10 miles really is not far to drive to be able to get reemployed.
Vice Chair Collison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to do a little bit more on the 350,000. I talked with advocates yesterday who said that virtually eliminates or prevents a non-compete for anyone except those very highly specialized physicians. In virtually, there are no nurse practitioners who are making $350,000 or anyone, or it completely eliminates primary care. Any pediatrics. So it really does just hit those very highly paid specialties.
Delegate Kaiser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I spoke with the House bill sponsor, our committee member yesterday on the floor after we adjourned for a while about this, and she was certainly pleased to get the quarter loaf, the half loaf, or whatever the amount is to get the ball rolling. And if I were to address Delegate Martinez's question, why 350,000? We draw arbitrary lines in the sand all the time. That's our job. And so it just is one of those, it is one of those lines that allowed people to compromise. So.
Because it's an odd number, right? Yeah. Chisholm.
Last point on
Delegate
that.
Chisholm.
I'm sure that they picked a number high like that because it's very expensive to find specialists like that. You have to put out a lot of time going through the interview process, and it's usually a nationwide search a lot of times. And they want to make sure, well, hey, we paid. It's not uncommon for companies to pay $100,000 to find somebody that good, and then bring them in, and then 6 months later they take off. So I'm sure they're just protecting their own investment at that point.
Any other concerns or questions? Delegate Taveras.
Yes, I don't mind drawing a line in the sand. And I think my question is, we need to understand that when we do draw that line, what's the universe of impact? So like, if we are doing that, like, what's the potential of the universe of people we would be impacting?
And I will probably have to say that it's very small to make $350,000. I don't think PA nurses make that. It will have to be a highly specialized physician probably. So it's a very small number, and I bet you that is why it was chosen. Neurosurgeons perhaps, so any other questions or concerns? No, Delegate Hutchinson.
And the bottom line is that these restrictions and changes don't affect the veterinarians. Is that correct?
That's right. That's correct.
That's right.
That's correct, Delegate Hutchinson.
Well, I'm sorry, I should say with the exception of the prospective application provision at the end of the bill. There's, oh, you know what? Let me just look, sorry. I could be wrong about that too. No, I apologize. That it's also doesn't apply to the veterinarians. So never mind. Yes, it doesn't apply to the veterinarians.
Okay, all right, so we're okay, move to concur, great. One minute, what else do we have? Go ahead, quickly, go ahead.
Baby food, House Bill 97, it is being amended to conform to its cross file.
All right, we concur, what else?
And House Bill 358, Prince George's County Work Group on Health and Wellness, it's being amended to conform to Senate.
We're okay with that. All right, Lisa. None, all right, thank you. Can you please get your folders in the back? Thank you.
375 is not gonna be able to be reported.